UFC is great. The problem, I think, in the past, just as Dana White stated, was the sample size and the great women. There weren't enough of them. So you'd have your, Ronda Rouseys. You would have your cyborgs, and you've had your elite level fighters, and then you'd have people who were just there to fill. The sport hadn't evolved so much where there were so many great fighters. It's almost like when the UFC, when it started, and you'd have guys who were just strikers and weren't great, and against Royce Gracie, who just demolished everybody because he was that much better than everybody. Here's a case where you have probably going back 2 years, a year, where you have 5 great fighters in the world that are women, and the rest are good athletes, but they just can't hang with the elite. So it becomes like having the New York Yankees playing, or the Miami Heat playing the Washington Generals every night, and that's what it would be like. So until you had enough elite level athletes, it was tough to put that sport on the main stage. You had Gina Carano, who brought it to the mainstream because she was a good-looking woman. She could fight. It was a nice story. You have good-looking girls like Val, Letourneau, Ronda Rousey, that make it more mainstream for the casual observer. And then you have people who actually respect these people as fighters, whereas Ronda Rousey, forget about the UFC, she's an Olympian. Now, I don't care what anybody says, UFC or not UFC, if you're an Olympian, you're something special, because that means you're the best in your entire country. And I think she medaled in the Olympics, so not only is she the best in the entire country, she's one of the best in the entire world in her own sport. She's taken that, which thankfully judo is part of mixed martial arts, and she's parlayed it into being a great mixed martial artist and a great fighter. She obviously is head and shoulders so far above everybody she's faced. So it's good for the sport in a way where she's a trash talker, so she's a Chael Sonnen of the women's division. It's also not great in the sport is that the fact that she really hasn't achieved so much when it comes to her own sport. So she's an Olympian, she's great, she's done it all, but I don't think she should be calling out guys like George, who have done so much for the actual sport as a whole than just women's fighting. So she's an ambassador for her sport. She's actually, she's great at, inspiring probably young girls to compete in not just judo, but, MMA. And when I used to wrestle, it used to be that people just wanted to wrestle. Nobody wanted to do mixed martial arts. It was just, wrestlers stayed away from that. But now, people are actually going into being mixed martial artists right off the bat. They don't want to wrestle, they just want to do everything at once. And that's where we've gotten, and that's why the sport's progressed so much. For a strength and conditioning perspective, they definitely can train with the men. They definitely can train with high-end athletes. The only thing that's different would be the max strength, obviously, of a woman to man. If I have, Rory or Chris Letang doing heavy chin-ups, you're not going to be strapping on 100-pound dumbbells around the waist of a woman. I wish we did. I've had it's that when you have a woman fighter or a woman athlete, the amount of powerful and really, really freakish characters you'll see are few and far between. When it comes to, I could have 10 guys come in here today and chin 100 pounds, which is unbelievable, but the athletes that we train are really, really elite. When it comes to training female athletes, you're gonna have that one special athlete, just like it's been like in the UFC, where you have that one Ronda Rousey, where you have one. I trained a girl named Martine Dugrenier. She was multiple-time world champion in wrestling, and she could do chin-ups with 50-pound dumbbells around her waist, much more than a lot of guys. But she was unbelievable, and she was a freak when it came to her strength. So the girls can definitely train with the guys. The only thing that would be different would be the poundages, changing them around, the amount pushed on a sled, the amount of chin-ups, bench press, whatever strength exercise you're doing, you'd have to tone it down a bit, but they're doing the same exercises as the men, and you can train them alongside a man. I think Ronda wins. I just don't know enough about Liz to really give you an honest answer. I think though that Ronda's progressed a bit too fast. So I think she's beaten everybody by armbar. I'd like to see someone with some takedown defense and who's able to keep the fight standing with her and see what happens, because I don't, just naturally, I don't think her striking has to be that great. It's probably, below average. So I'd like to see someone who can match up with her on the feet and, stuff a few takedowns and see where how Ronda reacts to that. You know, wrestlers and judoka don't like to be punched in the face. It's not their sport, and they're not used to it. So we'll see what happens when she gets hit a few times. And I don't know that Liz is going to do that because her style is not. She's more a grappler. So I think when you put two grapplers against each other, especially Ronda being the higher level grappler, she's going to win. But when you put a striker in there with someone who can, can stuff a few takedowns, then we're going to see some fun. So when you put her against the Jose Aldo of the women's division, who has great takedown defense and doesn't stay on his back long but can strike, it's going to be interesting.